Welcome to the deep dive. So this time you've brought us something really interesting, excerpts from Beatles' New York Dime Library, #2.
That's right. These dime novels, they were hugely popular back in the day. Maybe not high art, but definitely high adventure.
Yeah, pure escapism. So our mission today is to kind of unpack this story, right? It's set along the Maine coast, but it goes way beyond that across the sea.
Exactly. We're diving into this really tangled tale of heroism, adventure, lots of twists and turns. We'll follow these characters, Dudley Dash is central, and see how their lives get surprisingly linked.
Sounds good. It's all about those unexpected connections and, what made people devour these stories back then.
Definitely. It's a great window into that whole genre. Classic stuff. Heroes, villains, rescues, fortunes found, all against this dramatic backdrop.
Okay, let's start where it all begins, the Maine coast. We meet a fisherman, Carter Hayes. What happens with him?
Right. So Carter Hayes, he's your classic hardy fisherman type, out doing his thing, and he comes across this small boat just adrift.
Adrift, like shipwrecked.
Looks that way. It's a tragic scene, actually. There were 5 people on board, but only one survivor, a little boy. Just a waif, really.
Wow, okay. Heavy start. Puts you right into the drama.
It does. And Carter, well, he seems like a decent guy, maybe a bit lonely. He takes the boy in right away. That classic Good Samaritan moment.
Just pure kindness.
Well, mostly. But there's a twist. Along with the boy, there's this portmanteau, kind of suitcase, and it's heavy. Really heavy.
Don't tell me.
Gold. A lot of gold inside.
Ah, okay. So it's not quite so simple. There's money involved. Does that change things for Carter?
It definitely complicates it, doesn't it? The story hints he wrestles with it a bit. He realizes this boy might come for money, maybe people will look for him, but the gold is tempting, and he is lonely.
So he keeps the boy and the gold.
He does. He decides to raise the boy as his own. He even sort of rationalizes it, thinking he can use the gold for the boy's future, his education. It's human. A mix of good intentions and maybe a little opportunism.
Yeah, very human. Okay, fast forward then. 15 years later. What's become of the boy?
The boy, Dudley Dash, is now 15, and we meet him doing something pretty bold. He's sailing this small boat, a cat rig, across a really rough bay, heading for an island.
On his own. In rough seas.
All by himself. The description makes him sound really competent, fearless, handsome. Your typical dime novel hero already taking shape. He knows his way around a boat, that's for sure.
So he reaches this island. What's it like? Is he just exploring?
No, it's described as a wild, bleak-looking spot. Not exactly a picnic destination. He lands carrying a shotgun and hunting gear, so he's clearly resourceful.
Okay, sounds like he's prepared for anything.
And it's a good thing, too, because almost immediately he hears voices, a man yelling, really threatening, and a child crying.
Oh, no. Trouble finds him pretty quickly.
It does. He overhears this guy menacing a young girl, Lucy. It sounds pretty bad.
Band Dudley being the hero type.
Exactly. He doesn't hesitate, steps right in, confronts the man, protects Lucy. She's clearly terrified of this guy, her guardian, apparently.
So he rescues her.
He offers to take her away, bring her to Carter Hayes, who he calls Father Hayes.
Oh.
And Lucy, well, she trusts Dudley instantly. It says a lot about how desperate she is and maybe about Dudley's character,
Another rescue under his belt already. Is getting back any easier?
Not really. The journey back across the bay is tough, battling the wind and waves. It just reinforces Dudley's skill as a sailor. But they make it back safely to Carter's cottage as night falls.
So now Carter has 2 young people under his roof. Things getting interesting. Okay, the story shifts focus a bit now, right? Introduces another young man.
Yes, slightly confusingly, another 17-year-old named Dudley Dash. Though often the story refers to our main character just as the boy or by his actions early on, this other Dudley is introduced observing the bay from a cliff.
Okay, so this Dudley Dash, what's he like?
He's described very heroically, too. Handsome, graceful, strong, determined. He's watching 2 ships in the bay. One is a sloop, fairly ordinary looking. The other, an armed schooner, looks suspicious.
An armed schooner. Sound like pirates or smugglers, maybe.
That's the implication. Trouble on the water. But before he can figure it out, his attention is diverted. 2 riders appear.
Who are they?
A young man named Paul Dunstan, described as reckless, kind of dissipated, maybe drinks too much, wastes his time. And with him is a beautiful young woman, Louise Raynor.
The reckless guy and the beautiful maiden. Sounds like a classic setup.
It is. And sure enough, as they're admiring the view, 2 rough-looking guys jump out from the sloop, the less threatening boat, and try to grab Louise.
A kidnapping attempt. What about Paul Dunstan? Does he protect her?
He tries, maybe, but he gets knocked down pretty quickly. Doesn't seem very effective. Matches his description, really.
But Dudley Dash is watching from the cliff. Does he intervene?
Instantly, he
Yeah.
loops into action, strikes down one attacker with a single blow, showing off that strength the author mentioned.
Wow. And the other kidnapper.
He faces off against the second one. There's a knife fight, really intense. Meanwhile, Paul Dunstan just stays down, doesn't help at all.
Not looking good for Paul. So Dudley saves Louise.
He does. But after the rescue, Dudley says something. The text implies it's about Paul's cowardice.
Ooh, calling him out.
Seems like it. And Paul, his pride stung, immediately challenges Dudley to a duel. Right then and there.
A duel over wounded pride.
Exactly. And Dudley, cool as ever, just calmly accepts, suggests they use his rooms at the university for it. The contrast is really striking.
Okay, so a duel is set. What about the bad guys and the ships?
The second kidnapper gets away, back to the sloop. Dudley watches it sail off down the coast, but that armed schooner, it stays put, anchors nearby, looming.
Definitely feels like that schooner isn't done yet.
Yeah.
All right, the duel. Next day, sunset. Does it go as planned?
Not even close. Dudley's there, waiting. The schooner is still anchored, but looks deserted now, eerie. Paul Dunstan arrives with his friend, Lloyd Newton. Newton's supposed to be the second, load the pistols and make sure it's fair.
But Dudley doesn't trust him.
No, he voices his suspicion right away, insists on loading his own pistol. Newton takes it as an insult, naturally. Things are already tense.
Smart move by Dudley, sounds like.
Yeah.
Does something else happen?
Yes. Just as they're about to start, Dudley spots men coming along the beach towards them, rough-looking guys from the local inn, and one of them is one of the kidnappers.
The kidnapper is back with reinforcements. This sounds like a setup.
Totally looks that way. And then the treachery happens. Despite these guys arriving, Newton calls out, "Gentlemen, are you ready?" And Paul Dunstan. He doesn't wait for the signal. He fires early.
He cheats. Shoots before the signal. Did he hit Dudley?
He grazed him, stunned him for a second, but Dudley recovers incredibly fast, aims, and fires back. Hits Paul Dunstan. Dunstan collapses. Looks like he's dead or dying.
So Dudley won the duel, even with the cheating. But now there's a mob arriving.
Exactly. And Lloyd Newton, instead of admitting Dunstan cheated, immediately shouts, "Murder!" He tries to turn the arriving mob against Dudley.
Oh, this is bad. Dudley's alone against them.
He tries to defend himself, but yeah, they overpower him pretty quickly, bind him up. Newton is demanding they hang him right there for murdering Dunstan. It looks really bleak for Dudley.
Tied up, accused of murder by a mob. Is there any way out?
Just when you think it's over, help arrives from the most unexpected place. Seamen. From the schooner.
The deserted-looking schooner. They suddenly appear.
Yes, led by their chief. They rush in, fight off the mob. It's quick, brutal. 3 of the attackers are killed. The leader orders his men to free Dudley and bring him aboard the schooner.
Talk about a nick-of-time rescue. What happens to Newton and the others?
The leader lets Newton and the remaining attacker go. Tells them to take care of Dunstan, who's still lying there, seemingly dying.
Why would he do that? And why did he rescue Dudley?
He tells Dudley they saw the whole thing from the schooner, saw the unfair fight, the mob attack, decided to intervene because it was unjust.
Huh. A surprisingly honorable pirate. Who is this guy?
He introduces himself as Captain Winwood. Dudley, obviously grateful, explains the whole situation, the duel, Dunstan's background, getting kicked out of college, and the Navy.
So Dudley's now aboard a pirate schooner with Captain Winwood. This is a major turning point.
A huge one. He's pulled into a whole new, dangerous world.
Right. So they're on the Sea Lance, Winwood's ship. What's life like on board? Is Winwood trying to recruit him?
Oh, absolutely. As they're sailing the Atlantic, chasing another ship, Winwood keeps trying to persuade Dudley, calls it being a gallant sea rover, romanticizing piracy,
But Dudley's not buying it. He seemed pretty honorable before.
He holds firm, says he's grateful for the rescue, but he just can't stomach a life of crime. He refuses, flat out. His morals are strong.
Good for him. But Winwood probably doesn't give up easily.
Not at all. Since Dudley won't join the crew, Winwood finds another way to use him. As they approach the ship they're chasing, he orders Dudley to board it.
To attack it.
Not exactly, just to gather information first. Find out where it's from, where it's going, what cargo it has, how many people are on board. Reconnaissance, basically.
Does Dudley agree to that? It still feels like participating.
He does, reluctantly. He kind of sees it as repaying the debt he owes Winwood for saving him from that mob. It's a compromise, keeping him involved but not fully committed to piracy yet.
Okay, so he boards the other ship. Does it go smoothly?
Far from it. As Dudley and some of Winwood's men trying to get aboard, they're met with gunfire. The English captain of the ship, his crew, even passengers, they fight back hard.
So it turns into a real fight after all.
Mhm.
How does Dudley handle it?
Several of the pirates are killed right away, but Dudley takes charge, rallies the rest, and leads the attack, pushing the defenders back.
He's a natural leader, even among pirates.
Seems so. And there's this moment where he actually stops his own men from killing surrendered sailors who are begging for mercy. Shows his own code of conduct, very different from Winwood's usual style.
Even in a pirate attack, he's showing mercy. Does he get into any fights himself?
Oh yeah. He ends up in a fierce one-on-one fight with one particularly defiant buccaneer from Winwood's crew. Dudley wins, proving his fighting skill again.
So they take the ship. What does Captain Winwood think of Dudley's performance?
Winwood shows up after the fighting's done. He's clearly impressed. And he offers Dudley a prize from the captured ship, the Maiden.
The Maiden. Don't tell me.
It's Louise Rayner, the same woman he rescued from the kidnapping attempt back in Maine.
No way. What are the chances? Does Dudley accept her as a prize?
He does accept, but the text says he speaks to her reassuringly. He recognizes her, obviously, and sees she's terrified.
What a crazy reunion. Okay, so now Winwood has the ship, Louise, and Dudley. What's the plan?
Dudley talks with the captured English captain. Then Winwood reveals his original goal was actually to rob Judge Raynor's villa. That's Louise's father.
Wow. So the kidnapping attempt was probably part of that plan, too.
Very likely. Winwood asks Dudley again, now that he's seen him in action, will he be his first officer?
And Dudley says,
Still no. He refuses the officer position and refuses to help rob Judge Rayner. Instead, he makes a counteroffer.
What's that?
He tells Winwood, let the English ship go, release all the passengers, and let Dudley leave with them.
That's bold. Does Winwood agree?
Surprisingly, yes. The text says Winwood agrees with a strange smile. Maybe he respects Dudley's nerve, or maybe he has other plans.
So the English captain and Louise are free. They must be incredibly grateful.
Absolutely. The captain offers Dudley $20,000 as thanks, which Dudley actually accepts.
Wow, 20,000. That's a fortune back then.
It is. And Louise gives him something too, a gold ring with a diamond, a personal token of thanks.
So Dudley gets the girl, sort of, gets paid, keeps his honor, and gets off the pirate ship.
Looks that way. He boards the Sea Lance briefly, then the two ships part ways. The English ship sails south, and the Sea Lance heads north. Dudley seems to have navigated that whole mess pretty well.
But knowing these stories, his troubles probably aren't over. He's still technically with Winwood, right?
He is. And things are about to get even more complicated. As they're sailing, Dudley spots another ship. He's sure it's a man of war, a naval warship.
Uh-oh. Does Winwood believe him?
No, Winwood dismisses it. Thinks it's just an English supply ship. Easy pickings, especially since they just got news that war has officially broken out between England and the U.S.
War is declared. That changes everything. Winwood wants to attack this supposed supply ship.
Definitely. And he asks Dudley again to be the boarding officer.
Does Dudley agree this time?
He does, but with a condition. He says he'll board, but only if Winwood agrees to let him leave on the captured ship afterwards, assuming it isn't sunk or burned.
He's still trying to get away from Winwood for good. Does the capture happen?
Yes, but it's not a supply ship.
Yeah.
During a bad storm, the Sea Lance actually manages to capture the vessel, and it turns out Dudley was right. It's an English frigate. A warship.
They captured a frigate. Wow. The English commander must be shocked.
Totally shocked, especially when Dudley boards his ship. But this time, the commander recognizes the Sea Lance as a known pirate vessel.
And since Dudley boarded from it.
He immediately accuses Dudley of being a pirate officer.
Oh, no. After Dudley helped save that other English ship, does he try to explain?
He desperately tries. Denies being a pirate, explains his situation, probably mentions saving the other ship, but the English commander doesn't believe a word. Calls him a liar, trying to save himself.
So what happens to Dudley?
The commander sentences him and anyone else captured from the Sea Lance to be hanged from the yardarm in 2 days. No trial, nothing. Dudley's protests are useless. He's clapped in irons, facing death as a pirate. The ultimate irony.
Hanged as a pirate. This is his worst situation yet. Does he just give up?
Dudley, never. The next night, the frigate is sailing along the Massachusetts coast near Cape Ann. Dudley can practically see his home shores where Carter and Gabriello are. He's despairing.
Gabriello, the girl he rescued from the island, she's still with Carter.
Yes, she's grown up there. Dudley's thinking about them, fearing they'll never know what really happened to him.
Is there any hope?
A tiny sliver. The Marine guarding him. Turns out he recognizes Dudley. He was the steward on that ship Dudley saved from Winwood earlier.
Another incredible coincidence. Does he help him?
He feels he owes Dudley his life, so yes, risking everything, the guard helps him escape.
How?
He gets Dudley out of his irons. Dudley's in a skate room that happens to have lumber stored in it. Quick thinking as always, Dudley cobbles together a makeshift raft, afloat.
Yeah, man.
Under cover of darkness, helped by the guard, he slips down a rope onto his float and into the sea, drifts away from the frigate. He's free, but alone on a tiny raft in the dark ocean.
Free but in terrible danger again. Does he make it to shore?
Well, not immediately to his shore, but luck intervenes again. A small coastal sloop, the Pretty Girl, spots him struggling in the water near the main coast.
They rescue him.
Yes, the captain, Dusenbury, and his crew pull him aboard, but his relief is short-lived.
Why? What happens?
One of the mates on the sloop recognizes an approaching ship. It's the Sea Lance, Winwood again, and they know its reputation smuggler turned pirate. They realize they're probably the next target.
The Sea Lance just won't leave him alone. What does Dudley do now on this little sloop?
Panic sets in on the Pretty Girl. The captain and mates want to abandon ship in their small boat, but Dudley, exhausted as he must be, takes command, stops them, even threatens them with a pistol.
He takes charge. What's his plan?
He notices they're in shallow water, too shallow for the Sea Lance to get close. So he figures Winwood will send a boat. His plan: capture the boat.
Capture the pirate boat.
How? He gets the crew ready, arms the Indian and Negro sailors on board. There's even a parson on the sloop he has to silence. Then Winwood's boat approaches, led by a fancy officer.
Okay, the confrontation. What happens?
The officer board starts questioning Captain Dusenbury. Dusenbury tries to play dumb, but one of the buccaneers stupidly reveals their pirate flag. At that exact moment, Dudley, hidden below, yells for them to surrender.
Ambush. Does it work?
Chaos ensues. A buccaneer fires. The person jumps in. Dusenbury reappears. Suddenly, 3 buccaneers are dead, 1 captured. Dudley then confronts the leader who boarded.
How does he handle the leader?
Dudley makes a deal. He tells the leader to order his other boats back to the Sea Lance and promises to let the leader return to Winwood if he releases a crewman from the Pretty Girl that the pirates had grabbed earlier.
Smart bargaining. Does the leader agree?
He does. Dudley gets the crewman back, the pirate leader leaves, and the immediate threat is over. Dudley managed to bluff and fight his way out of it again.
Incredible. He really can't catch a break, but he always finds a way. Okay, so where does the story go now? Back home.
Yes, the scene shifts back to Carter Hayes' cottage on the Maine coast. It's been 10 years since Dudley rescued Gabriello.
10 years, so Gabriella must be
14 now, a young woman. The cottage looks nicer, shows her touch. Old Patience, the servant, is there knitting. But Gabriello is staring out at the sea, looking worried.
Why? Does she sense something?
Maybe. Then they hear distant gunfire. Gabriello is instantly alarmed.
What does Patience think it is?
Patience figures, it's just enemy ships fighting, remember? The war is on. She thinks there's nothing they can do.
But Gabriello isn't the type to do nothing, is she?
No, she wants to help, just like Dudley. And then she spots a small boat heading for shore.
Let me guess.
It's Dudley, arriving back home after all this time, escaping the frigate and then the sloop incident.
What a reunion. What does he tell them?
He quickly explains about escaping the English frigate, how he was mistaken for a pirate. Gabriello is overjoyed to see him, but terrified by the danger he's in.
Especially if the frigate is still nearby. What does Dudley plan to do?
This is where it gets crazy. Dudley intends to go back towards the frigate.
Back towards the ship that wants to hang him. Why?
The reason isn't entirely clear in the excerpts, maybe to clear his name, maybe something else, but Gabriello is horrified. Yet, showing incredible loyalty, she insists on going with him.
Into danger again. What about the storm brewing?
Yes, a bad storm is rolling in. Patience thinks they're both completely mad, refuses to go, and stays behind to pray. Dudley and Gabriello set off in a tiny surf skiff, heading for the frigate as the storm worsens.
This is incredibly risky. Towards the frigate in a hurricane.
Exactly. He quickly explains he used the sloop's yawl to get ashore earlier. They can see the frigate is in trouble, close to a reef. They battle the huge waves and reach the warship just as the hurricane hits full force.
Talk about timing. Who do they meet when they get aboard?
Commodore Delancey himself, the man who sentenced Dudley to death. He's on deck, overseeing the chaos.
Does he recognize Dudley in the storm?
Not at first. It's dark, raining, chaotic. Dudley looks different too, probably rough from his escapes.
The ship's in danger from the storm, right?
What does Dudley do?
With the ship moments from being smashed on the reef, Dudley, without a word, takes the wheel. His instincts kick in.
He just takes control.
Yes. and he starts expertly steering the huge frigate through the storm. Commodore Delancey is amazed by this unknown sailor's skill, having no idea who it is. So Dudley's saving the very ship, and the very Commodore who wanted him dead.
Precisely. He navigates them through this treacherous channel called the Whale's Back and brings the frigate safely to anchor in the bay, out of the storm's worst fury.
He saved them all. The crew must be ecstatic.
They are. Cheers go up. They have no clue their savior is the man condemned as a pirate.
Does the Commodore figure it out?
Well, Delancey is so impressed, he invites Dudley to his cabin to thank him personally.
The moment of truth.
Dudley goes in with Gabriello, and then he takes off his hat, reveals himself.
What's Delancey's reaction?
Utter shock at first. Dudley calmly explains his escape, how he came back. Gabriello confirms the story. Delancey is stunned, but also incredibly impressed by Dudley's bravery and skill, and the fact he saved them all.
So no more hanging sentence.
Definitely not. Delancey is full of admiration. He apologizes sincerely for sentencing him. He even offers Dudley a commission in the British Navy.
Does Dudley accept? He's proven his skill.
No, he politely refuses, says his loyalty is to America now that war is declared.
Wow. Okay, does Delancey do anything else?
Yes, he presents Dudley with a medal for distinguished service for saving the frigate. Dudley accepts the medal.
A medal from the enemy Commodore. What a turnaround. So, can he leave now?
Dudley asks to leave with Gabriello. Delancey agrees Gabriello can go in her skiff. But he insists Dudley stay aboard as his honored guest. He wants to know more about him.
But Dudley's not the honored guest type, is he? Especially on an enemy warship.
Not a chance. As soon as Gabriello rows away in her skiff, Dudley does it again. He leaps overboard.
He escapes again. Just jumps into the sea.
Yep. Second time escaping this very frigate. He just wants his freedom.
What does the Commodore do? Shoot at him.
No. Delancey is astonished, but seems to respect Dudley's spirit. He actually orders his men to let him go.
So Dudley swims for it. Does he find Gabriello?
He swims underwater first to avoid being seen, then heads for a nearby island. And sure enough, Gabriello anticipated this. She's waiting there with the skiff.
Amazing teamwork. So they finally make it back to Carter's cottage, safe and sound.
They make it back, exhausted. But the cottage isn't empty. It's full of rough-looking men.
Oh no, not again. Who is it this time?
It's the local county constable, Daniel Dawes, and his posse. They're there to arrest Dudley.
Arrest him. For what now?
As a traitor. For being associated with the British frigate, presumably. Out of the frying pan, into the fire.
This poor guy cannot catch a break. Do Patience and Gabriella try to help?
You bet they do. While Dudley is getting changed and shackled at the ankles, Patience whispers that she'll help him escape.
No.
That night, Patience serves supper to the constable and his men, laced with a sleeping drug.
She drugs them. Classic.
While they're out cold, Patience gets the keys. Gabriello unlocks Dudley's irons. They slip out the window and plan to head for Portland, hoping to disappear.
They're on the run again. Does Dudley ever get to clear his name or use that medal?
Well, there's another twist. An officer comes to Commodore Delancey with news. Lieutenant Wheeler arrives, and with him is Dudley Dash.
Dudley went back to Delancey. Voluntarily.
Apparently so. Dressed as a fisherman, looking rough but calm. He tells Delancey the whole story again. Saving the ship, getting the medal, escaping, being arrested as a traitor.
Delancey must be speechless, especially seeing the medal again.
Completely astonished. But this encounter seems to set something else in motion. Dudley's connection, however strange, with the British might be about to help the Americans.
How so? What happens next?
The scene shifts. We meet Commodore Duncan of the American vessel, the Sentinel. They're heading into that same bay looking for the British frigate, which they now know is called the Iron Duke.
And Dudley?
Dudley Dash is at the wheel of the American ship, acting as their pilot through these dangerous local waters he knows so well.
So the Americans trust him now. He switched sides, officially.
It seems so. They're expecting a tough fight. The Iron Duke is a strong ship. But Commodore Duncan trusts Dudley's skill. He decides to attack the British ship while it's still anchored, relying totally on Dudley to navigate them in.
This is Dudley's chance to be a hero for his own side. Does he pull it off?
Brilliantly. He guides the Sentinel through a narrow, tricky channel, completely surprising the British. A massive naval battle kicks off.
Cannons blazing.
Absolutely. Huge damage. Lots of casualties on both sides. Dudley then maneuvers the Sentinel perfectly to rake the Iron Duke with cannon fire. Then he makes the call to lay their ship alongside the British one for boarding.
Boarding action. Like the pirates. but for the right side this time.
Exactly. Lieutenant Wheeler leads the American borders, and Dudley is right there with him, fighting like fury. It's intense hand-to-hand combat.
Do they win?
They do. The British eventually surrender. And who hauls down the British flag and raises the stars and stripes? Dudley Dash himself.
What a moment. From accused traitor to national hero, what's his reward?
He's made a midshipman in the American Navy. A real officer. It's the culmination of everything. He takes a look back at his home on the coast, then sails off to his new life.
An amazing journey. But somehow, I doubt his adventures are completely over, even as a naval officer.
You would be right. Months later, he's Midshipman Dash, serving in the Gulf of Mexico on an American warship. They're searching postal inlets.
Looking for trouble.
Or pirates or enemy ships. They get a report of a suspicious schooner. Lieutenant Wheeler is sent with boats to investigate, and Dudley is his second in command.
Does the investigation go smoothly?
Not quite. As the boats approach the schooner, they hear fighting. One boat comes back reporting it was sunk.
So Dudley takes charge.
Yes. With the main frigate out of sight, Dudley orders an attack on the schooner. He leads the charge, captures the vessel, which turns out to have an English officer and crew.
What does he do with them?
He actually sends them as prisoners to a nearby British sloop of war. Then he takes supplies and sets sail in the captured schooner himself.
Where's he going in a captured schooner?
He mentions he's going to pay a visit to an old friend, Captain Winwood.
Winwood again. What's the old pirate bit up to? Did he ever rob Judge Rayner?
We get a quick update. After escaping the Iron Duke fight, Winwood did try to raid Judge Rayner's villa, but it failed miserably. The locals fought him off and he retreated with heavy losses.
Ah, serves him right. So Dudley's heading to find a defeated Winwood. Why?
We don't know Dudley's exact motive, but fate intervenes. Winwood's schooner actually attacks the vessel Dudley is now commanding.
They fight each other. Dudley versus Winwood.
Yes. Dudley sees his own ship is getting damaged, so he makes a snap decision. Board Winwood's ship instead.
Takes the fight to Winwood. What happens when he boards?
He leads the boarders, confronts and disarms Lloyd Newton first.
Newton, that treacherous second from the duel.
The very same. And then Dudley sees someone else on Winwood's deck, Paul Dunstan, still alive but dying.
Dunstan survived the duel after all this time and ended up with Winwood and Newton.
Apparently so. Dunstan's last words are actually relief that he won't be hanged. He asks about his mother, then he dies.
Wow. Does Dudley offer any comfort?
He promises Dunstan his mother will be told he died in action. A moment of grace, even for his old enemy.
What about Newton? Does Dudley hang him?
Newton fully expects it. Dudley confirms that's usually the fate for pirates like him. But then Dudley makes a surprising offer.
What? Clemency?
Yes. He tells Newton, and the Spanish lieutenants also captured, that he'll spare their lives if they enlist as seamen under his command in the U.S. Navy. Their future depends on their good behavior.
Giving even them a chance at redemption. Dudley's really grown into a leader. Where does he go next? Havana.
Yes, Dudley and his crew, including his new recruits, arrive in Havana, Cuba, but trouble finds him again. He's ashore and gets arrested by Spanish soldiers.
Arrested? Why? Did someone betray him?
That's his first thought. He's thrown into the Morro Castle prison, back in chains.
He just can't stay out of prison. Does anyone help him this time?
An unexpected visitor. A lady comes to his cell.
Let me guess. Carmelita. The maiden from the ship he boarded with Winwood, the one who gave him the ring.
You got it. She recognizes him immediately, shows him the ring she gave him.
Amazing. Does she know he's in trouble?
Oh, it gets worse. Her father comes too. And he tells Dudley that while he owes Dudley a debt for some past kindness as a Spanish official, he has to sentence Dudley to death for piracy because of his association with Winwood.
Sentenced to death again. This is unbelievable. Does Carmelita accept this?
No way.
Hmm.
She tells Dudley privately that he has no chance of a fair trial under Spanish law. She's nobly born, she says, and she has a plan. A very risky one.
What's the plan? Another escape.
Yes, she's bribed a priest. Dudley is to swap clothes with the priest and just walk out disguised.
Will that work? Isn't it dangerous for her?
She reassures him she'll be fine. Her father is influential. She can handle it. Dudley is reluctant to leave her, but she insists.
Does he go?
He does. Before leaving, he writes down an address for her, promises to write and tell her his real identity. They say goodbye, and Dudley, dressed as a priest, walks out of the Morro Castle.
Freedom, thanks to Carmelita. Does he reconnect with his crew?
Yes, he finds Roy and Trevor, his loyal men, who were frantic about him being in the Morro. Dudley, never one to sit still, immediately hatches a new plan.
What now?
He finds a Spanish privateer captain in the harbor, proposes they team up for a strike against the English. Dudley wants to use his own men for the risky part, hiding in the privateer's cabin first.
What's the target?
An English vessel alongside. Dudley surprises and captures 2 English officers. Then he, Roy, and their men take control of the English ship. Another prize.
He just keeps going. Okay, we must be nearing the end of these excerpts. Is there a final encounter?
There is. A very significant one. Dudley and Roy, older now, more mature, are on deck when they spot a boat drifting.
Who's in it?
They find one man inside, barely alive. It's Captain Winwood.
Winwood. Still alive, but dying now.
Yes. And he makes a deathbed confession, tells Dudley about his misspent youth, how he accidentally caused his wife's death years ago during a ship capture, and his terrible grief over losing his daughter, Gabrielle.
He thinks Gabrielle's dead.
Yes. And Dudley gently tells him the truth, that Gabrielle is alive, living on the Maine coast.
How does Winwood react?
He's overcome with emotion. Before he dies, he gives Dudley a satchel. Inside are papers proving his story and pictures of him and his wife. A final, tragic connection.
Wow. So Gabriella is Winwood's daughter. Incredible. Do these papers help Dudley too?
The final pieces fall into place shortly after. Captain Rayner, Louise's father, the judge, encounters Dudley. Rayner explains he'd been hunting Winwood. Then Carter Hayes arrives.
Carter, what does he add?
Carter recognizes the dead Winwood, and he remembers the old portmanteau found with baby Dudley. He brings it out. Inside, among other things, are papers.
Dudley's papers, what do they say?
They finally reveal Dudley's origins. His parents were on a packet ship from Liverpool that sank off the Maine coast. The whole mystery is solved.
So Dudley's story comes full circle, right back to that shipwreck. Are there any last words from Carmelita or Louise?
Yes, a final note from Carmelita. She says she got off lightly for helping him escape Morro thanks to her father. She hints she knows about his privateering and supports him. It also mentions Dudley had happy reunions years later with both Carmelita, now a countess, and Louise, now married.
So they remained important figures in his life. What a story.
Absolutely packed. The author even throws in a final note about meeting someone in Havana connected to an earlier plot point, linking it to the coming Cuban Revolution. Just endless threads.
It really is an incredible web.
Yeah.
Dudley Dash's life, from that boat off Maine to naval hero, surviving pirates, prisons, duels. It's just nonstop.
It truly is. Rescued waif, brave sailor, rescuer himself, pirate associate, escape artist extraordinaire, naval officer. His journey is just wild. And the way all these characters, Carter, Gabriella, Winwood, Delancey, Carmelita, Louise, weave in and out is amazing.
Totally highlights those themes of heroism, loyalty, betrayal, and just sheer unpredictable fate that made these dime novels so gripping.
Exactly. Pure adventure storytelling.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Beale's Dime Library, here's something for our listeners to think about. In that whole complex story, what single act, maybe of kindness, maybe of bravery, do you think echoed the loudest, had the biggest ripple effect?
Was it Carter taking in the boy? Dudley saving Lucy? Carmelita's escape plan? Delancey showing mercy? So many pivotal moments.
Definitely something to ponder. The impact of individual choices. And as always, if you've got some source material you think we should dive into next time, let us know.
We're always ready for the next adventure.